Welcome to another exciting, fantastic, enjoyable weekly Pantheon Roundtable. It's number 2. Myself, that's a wrong scene.
Number 2.
It's number 3. It's number 3.
Yes,
there we go.
3.
With myself, Dan. Rob, unfortunately, is a little not here at the moment, but that's okay.
He's suffering from not hearedness.
Perhaps. As I try to select the correct window here, just have to set this up on the fly a little bit. Not the Twitch chat, we want the Zoom meeting. And we do not want to chroma key anything, for the love of all that's holy. Because, yeah, none of us have green screens. It's probably for the best. I wouldn't know how to operate in the first. There we go. There are all our shining faces are there.
Problem operating. It's the thing that goes on the screen that's difficult.
Right. There we go. Alrighty, folks, we're getting into it here. Usual suspects for this one. Myself, Dan. Hi, how you doing? To my... That way. There we go. To my left, I believe that is, right on screen. That's Ben. And right below there, wrong direction, Salim. I'm trying to get my camera directions correct. It's really confusing. I'm pointing one way, and it points the opposite way. Like, normally I have it flipped horizontally, but it's going the wrong direction here. Salim, before we get started here, you wanted to do a state of the game for where Pantheon is right now. So, floor is yours. Go right ahead.
Yeah, something that came up during the week, and I figured that we could start every show this way. Really, we are establishing some internal stuff right now. Last week I said that I had spent a week doing some really boring stuff, which was trying to define where our pipelines and stuff were going and getting people tasked out. So right now we've got, Brad posted a list of things we're expecting to get done this month, creature lists, content plans, art pipelines. Our artists are doing some concepts. We're working internally on trying to get a snapshot of a zone based on the style that we've decided to go with. So really, things are moving forward, but this is really the kind of boring, can't really show you anything part of development. We have to actually get the core of the game worked out before it can produce all these awesome, pretty things. So yeah, that's it.
There we go. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Again, Ben and Salim from the Pantheon team. Tony was going to join us tonight, but unfortunately he got distracted by important stuff. He had a little obligation he had to fulfill, so he is fortunately not going to be here tonight. Thanks for everyone joining us.
He's at the bar with Rob.
It is St. Patty's Day.
We're still working on trying to figure that one out. Just saying.
Him and Tony are hanging out, man. I'm telling you.
You think so? Maybe.
Yeah, they're doing shots of tequila. Yep.
Oh dear. That's exactly what I didn't want to hear. Wait, Rob doesn't even drink tequila. You guys can join. You guys can join us not just in the Twitch chat, where we love seeing all your comments and all the conversation going on. Questions and direct discussion, however, is going to happen from the Pantheon Rise of the Fallen chat room on PantheonROTF.com. Ben, could you explain to people how to get to that?
Apart from going to PantheonROTF.com?
Yeah.
Go there and then click on the chat link. The chat link is conveniently placed across the top navigation bar.
There we go. Now, it is restricted to certain individuals.
It's restricted to supporters and apprentice developers as well. Raishu also tells me that we will be getting a chat update, a chat program update soon, so we will have a better chat room. At that point, too, while we love to have our supporters in there, it has been the original plan all along to have it just this roundtable just open to apprentice developers to participate in. So I don't know if it's going to be up for next week, but soon. If it is for next week, or it'll be the week after, and it'll just be apprentice devs in the chat channel. So just want you to be aware.
Here we go. Okay, K10 giving us a little insider information there. That makes sense. We won't say that on air, but there we go. That's heartwarming. That's heartwarming. Thank you guys in chat. You guys had a lot of updates come out over the course of the week. Just checking out the very front page of Pantheon. You have an article posted for today for what's going to happen here. You listed every... Whoa, hey, we got a new follower there. That was loud. I really wish I could turn that off. Thank you for the follow. Rob, how do I turn that off? He has all this figured out. Wow. Okay. You guys have a lot of things listed there, including a consumables and combat article that Brad put up. Can you guys tell us more about that article and exactly what's going on with it?
Yeah. So really, just to summarize, potions in general, consumables in general, have often been thought of as useless in a lot of games. But there is a way to implement them to make them fun and enjoyable. Um, Without going into too much detail there, check out Brad's post he made on March 16th, which was yesterday. Goes into a lot of detail about kind of how he envisions things working. A lot of cool stuff there. Just gotten some good response from the community once again too. So it's a long read, but it's a fun read.
Sorry about that audio, guys. I went ahead and deleted the followers widget from OBS entirely, so I won't be having any more of those interruptions. No, bad OBS. Even in the scene, it shouldn't be. I'm not even gonna make the joke. We also have a lore blog that just went up with Tony. Now, I know neither of you are the lore experts, but there is a lot of information going on here, including racial naming conventions, possible lore regularities that he wanted to cover, artifact lore, a King's Reach map, a lot of other things.
Yeah, he's been cranking away at that stuff. On top of doing, the internal stuff, he's been kicking butt on getting the lore out there. He loves crafting the lore for this stuff, so he's super excited to put that stuff out.
Yeah, and it's not just that too. I mean, he's gotten such deep involvement from the community in terms of the lore, and I mean he repeats it frequently, and we all say the same thing too. You know, it's a different way of developing things, having this much community involvement. But Tony's one of those people that's really enjoying it too. So he's really appreciative to have all of that input and that feedback so early in design and, the building of the lore.
He's been extremely open with the community, not just with KTM and ourselves, but with the entire community about writing and presenting lore, not just from his perspective, but us contributing to that perspective. It's been fantastic. Of course, we are taking questions, comments, and concerns in the chat room over at PantheonROTF.com. You guys can join in the chat and talk about drinking. I just noticed people saying shots of tequila. Oh dear. Yeah, you guys have started something.
No, it's because they saw Rob and Tony, and they're just giving you a breakdown.
Oh, there we go. I did not know that was going on anymore. We'll find Rob eventually, I'm sure. Then he'll be like, sorry. Going over to the chat room, if you guys have any questions, comments, go ahead and do that. Go ahead and put that out there. Going back to one of those articles, though, that I wanted to touch on briefly, the consumables and combat. What are your guys' feelings on being able to use, and sometimes with certain games, abuse consumables when it comes to staying alive? Oh, hi, Rob.
I really should be a pantheon of punctuality.
Do you want to hand off real quick? Because I've been having a problem.
Okay. Okay.
The follower notification keeps blaring in our ears. I had to delete it from OBS to stop it.
Oh, okay. Yep, I'll take over.
Okay, we're gonna hand off right now, guys. Hold tight. You're watching twitch.tv/The Rob and Dan Show. Looking over at the chat, Pharaoh the Gnome has no issues with consumables if they are rare and require work to attain. Go ahead and continue your guys' thoughts on, well, thoughts you never even began, unfortunately, on consumables, not just in combat, but in general. Ben, Salim?
Oh,
yeah. Sorry. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
One of you.
I mean, no, it's basically those are my thoughts too. consumables are a cool idea, but when they don't have any real purpose, it becomes pointless. Like in a lot of games, I tend to just kind of collect them and then end up selling them to a vendor. That's one thing personally I would like to not see is them being that useless. If you're going to have them, have some point to them.
Yeah, they have to. And I've said this about a lot of things. Um, I don't want to put in a system just to put in a system. It needs to have some functionality to it. Reading through Brad's post, I mean, he's basically saying that we'll have consumables and they'll need it for certain situations, which is true of most MMOs today, especially at the high end. If you're doing hardcore raiding, my only worry about consumables in general is them the perception is that they become required. I mean, obviously, when we're balancing encounters and stuff, the end game, you have to consider that power, or consumables just have to not be powerful. And you can't make the argument that we'll just make them utility or whatever. Well, then your variety of consumables is limited, and even further by the fact you don't want to have core class abilities be put on consumables. So um, you have to be careful with them, but having things like food and stuff like that to keep up regen, things like that, that stuff will definitely be in. But I I don't want to have people thinking that they have to have this, they have to have these consumables in order to do their job. A class should be able to go out and do their job as that class without having to rely on um, some super advanced knowledge of all the consumables and stuff in the game. We'll try our best to make those types of things just feel like a bonus. But once again, it's kind of a fine line. You don't want to make them too powerful because then you have to balance around that, or you have to do weird things like, oh well, when you start this fight, the mob does some AE debuff that affects only um, the consumables because we don't want you using consumables for this fight. I hate having to be in that type of situation. I've been in that situation in games that I've joined that have these kind of established mechanics that the development team hates because they were just bad practice, or it was a good idea that turned bad, and you have to put in mechanics on top of that for new content to get rid of that stuff. You think about things like the Mana Stone, and we'll let it work in old world but not a new world. I don't want to be in that type of situation. We've seen what's happened in the past, so we should be able to make smart decisions. We'll not always make the best ones, but we should be able to make smart decisions when it comes to that stuff. But consumables are a large web of things to do when you're talking about putting it on top of combat, stuff like that. So just something to think about.
A couple comments from chat, if I could go back and find them real quick. Rhett says, I like them to enhance gameplay, but I don't want them to replace real PC rather, like healing pots, etc. Also, Anderson has this to say. We use them a lot in EQ2 for raids and dungeons for removing disease, poison, etc. I don't think I'd feel comfortable relying on potions and elixirs to remove poisons and whatnot as a game mechanic. Of course, if you guys feel that's important to kind of bump the economy with that, it's understandable. But I know for myself, I want those to be in character. I want those to be built into the characters themselves.
Yeah, EQ2 rating, a lot of, at least when I was rating Sentinel's Fate and stuff like that, there was never a point when I had to have Cure Curse or whatever a pot. Actually, I think there were a couple cases where I had to have it, but in general, other than that, it was handled. Of course, I played an Inquisitor for a large chunk of those, so I was able to do that. But we just had timed stuff, and people who group cured or whatever, you click the cure and it gets healed. As long as people were on their game, that's the PC element, right? As long as people were on their game, things went well. If a person screwed up, then things could go bad, and that's where you learn, and that's the experience right there. So yeah, consumables are just kind of they're just kind of weird thing. They can completely screw up your game, or they can just kind of be that cool extra thing. A pot that lets you change an illusion without adjusting your faction. That's a consumable technically, and it's a fun thing. Um, something that gives you a shoots fireworks out or whatever. That's a consumable and it's a fun thing. Something that you can pop to place a marker in the world so people can see where you are. That's utility. But the list of those things is not very long. So yeah, it's just it requires a lot more thought um, uh, than I could obviously put in this segment.
Yeah,
but yeah.
It's going to take a lot of thought for you guys to hammer out properly. The big topic, yeah, the big topic though that's been on all over the website really is experience loss issues.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is there a specific way so far that you guys as developers have been approaching that for Pantheon? And if so, exactly how have you been looking at it so far?
I put the death mechanic. I pulled the death mechanic from the Kickstarter and put it in the wiki this morning, and then added a summarized thing at the bottom because I kind of wrote it in kind of an in character style originally. But yeah, I mean, we will absolutely have XP loss, and we will have level loss. I've been saying this, several times, since we started talking about the game, and that we're trying to recreate an experience where people actually respect their environment, and they, in order to do that, they need to fear death. If I can just walk around willy nilly and not care because when I die I'm going to have to pay a little extra coin because my gear got damaged, or I may have to walk for 5 minutes to somewhere to loot my corpse, that's not a death penalty. EXP debt is a death penalty, but it's a tax on incoming XP. It's not really taking away from you, right? So for us, we felt that in order to enhance the experience of, hey, I just took down this crazy hard boss. The fact that the whole time you're sitting there on the edge of your seat, like, oh my God, it's so close. If I die, man, I'm going to lose a chunk of XP. I'm going to have to get a res or whatever. It adds to the experience. It also makes you respect that guy. You may be willing to try him out, but you're going to be like, man, I don't know. Maybe I need to go out and kill a little bit or do whatever to get a couple more levels or find a better weapon to try to take on this mountain. So for us, specifically for me, death is huge, and I haven't no MMO that I've played have I ever respected death except for EverQuest and Final Fantasy 11. And you're talking to a guy who lost 3 bubbles getting from 59 to 60 on my mage in EverQuest after staying up, a couple days grinding out brownies in Lesser Fate Arc, and lost XP to a bug because the cleric res from the Ankh didn't give me XP twice. After I decided to help them go kill for Myga in what you call it, East Ways or West Ways. So and I still that happened. It sucked. I got up and I went back and did what I need to do because I wanted 60, and that experience sticks with me. But I respected death. I respected the fact whenever Brownie would break out, I'm like, oh man, God, I don't want to die. Oh my God, I want to die. And when I beat him, like, yes, thank you. So yeah, you just can't respect your environment enough. You can't respect the mobs or the challenge if you don't fear death. You need to fear death.
Comments from the chat right now. Raphael agreeing you definitely need to have level and XP loss. The KTAM radio folks, I do believe that is the head guy, the head honcho over there. He's asking, will there be different death mechanics depending upon the nature of the death, whether it's a PvP kill or a PvE kill, or whether it's a boss or hits trash mobs? I'm kind of curious where he's going with that.
This was something else that was brought up in one of the threads on the forums too. One of the thoughts was what happens if it's environmental damage? Like if there's actually Beck also had pointed out too that one of his thoughts was what if there's like a different kind of death penalty per mob? Like if you're fighting against goblins, say for instance, and you get swarmed by them, maybe they just take your gold. Whereas if you're fighting against a raid boss, maybe they, then you suffer severe experience loss. Some other people commented, what happens if you fall from a cliff and die that way? Maybe is it just gear related? You have to do equipment on your gear, but not necessarily experience loss. Those were the kinds of things that were being discussed.
So back when we were doing Vanguard, death. There were a couple weeks where we were talking about death penalty, and one of the things that came out of that was, hey, let's make it so depending on the dot value of the mob, your death penalty is different. So we actually at one point had 5 or 7 different death penalties, and all that came out of that was it's extreme confusion. When I go up to a mob, oh, he's a 2 dot. Okay, what's the death penalty for that? Or when, oh, I fell off if I fall off a cliff, well, what's going to happen here? The death penalty should be consistent across the board. Um, you know, whether killing a goblin killing you takes away less XP versus this guy, it's just it just seems like it's too much information that you have to convey to people. It's more UI elements. It's more con information that you have to display. Death penalty should be a death penalty. I should be able to explain the death penalty to you in less than a paragraph if I really wanted to, and that's that. You should respect everything. That mob of goblins that killed you, that mob of goblins equates to one big guy, right? That's above your level. Maybe you shouldn't have taken on 15 goblins. Maybe you should respect the fact that goblins assist each other and shouldn't run in the middle of their camp thinking just because they're lowbie creatures that you can destroy them all. You just have to respect your environment. You have to think before you do things, and you have to be strategic. You're not always going to have to be super awesome, crazy strategic with stuff, especially if you're way higher level than it. But I mean, really, that's kind of the core of the game, and the fact you're supposed to respect your environment.
We have a lot of comments in chat to go through. I'm trying to keep track of those as best I can.
Yeah,
yes.
Sorry, there was another thing that was brought up by Ex Mortis and in other places on the forums as well. The problem with a harsh death penalty, could be considered a problem, is when you're looking for a group and you want to go explore somewhere, and then a lot of people say, no, I don't want to go there, because we're going to die a lot and I'm just going to lose too much XP. So do you think, Salim, is there a potential there where it might hurt some of the community in that regard, or
I mean, it's just what's your cup of tea, right? You bought the game, you're playing the game, you know how the game works, right? So if you invested in the game and there's a certain spot where it's just too challenging for you, or you just had crappy groups or whatever, and that's your experience, then at some point you got to get back on that horse. At some point you need to challenge that. If you want to progress in the game, at some point you have to. Actually, Farron just put it in chat really well. Risk versus reward, right? I mean, if a place is kicking your butt, and you're of level for it, it's just super challenging, then the rewards that come from there are going to reflect that. And that all plays back into the fact that you respect your environment. Severe death penalty means that reward should be great. Hopefully, a mob's not just walking up to you and just impaling you and you're dying. Although sometimes I've been known to be that evil, but there will definitely be situations like that. It was happening in EQ. It happened in FF11. I mean, I'm sure it's happened in games with lesser death penalties. Some people just don't like dying. My wife hates dying. She doesn't care what game it is. She hates the idea of dying. Just because it just to her it just sucks to die. Whereas me, any game outside of those two, I really don't care. Dying in WoW didn't mean anything to me. Certainly EQ2 didn't mean much because I didn't notice those things. Paying to repair my stuff when I just click a repair all button doesn't mean anything to me. If I'm max level, EXP debt means nothing to me. So I'm comfortable with the game that we're presenting, that this is what fits our model very well. If we didn't have a good death penalty, I don't think that we'd be able to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish, and that is to bring back that old school experience, and that's a key part of it. That is a huge part of it, especially when you're talking about EverQuest.
Yeah, going back to as we were playing just before the stream World of Warcraft, dying, you have to, like you were saying, go over to a vendor, a random vendor, and say, repair my stuff. Oh, hey, that's all. A problem solved. Hey, I didn't die pretty much.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
there's no impact.
Do they don't have the resurrection sickness at all?
Nope.
Okay.
Well, if you go to if you decide to not run back to your body and you just want to res right at the graveyard, yeah, but no one ever does that.
Yeah.
There's so many graveyards around that your chances are you have to run for at most a minute to get back to your body. Okay, so you lost a minute and you lost a few gold coins.
Yeah, and the other thing people you don't think about when it comes to death, especially in a game where there's bind points and stuff. If the death mechanic isn't severe, people are going to use death for traveling and all kinds of weird stuff. Oh, I'm done here. I'm not going to fight out the dungeon. I'm just going to die. I don't care about my corpse because I don't generate a corpse or whatever. If people don't want to take item damage, they'll make a macro to equip all their stuff in their bag and go naked and then just go die at a raid mob. There's a lot of things that that people do to work around death mechanics that are less severe than EQs or FFs. It doesn't matter. Someone's going to dislike the death mechanic somewhere, but I think in all those cases, those people still don't respect the environment as much as they should, or as much as the designers would like them to.
A lot of the times the death mechanic limits gameplay, and that's what a lot of people dislike because they want to actually keep playing the game. And I just noticed full screen's not putting me full screen at all, so I'll just go back to gallery view. It's people don't like death penalties that just limit the playability of the game. It's almost saying it's like stop playing for a little while because you've died too many times. You don't really want something like that.
I definitely see that point. I guess you kind of have to think of rewarding people for being careful and crafty in how they play and how they go about pulling mobs, things like that. Because there's layers of strategy, right? I don't want people to a group of mobs about their level. We're not populating mobs in a way where you hit this mob and he's just a part of a group of mobs and they all attack you. We're bringing back pulling mechanics, whether it be body pulling, feign pulling, whatever, splitting up groups. If you get in a group, people who know what they're doing, or let someone know what they're doing. If everyone's communicating, then you should be able to pull mobs, kill mobs, get loot. Without dying in general, unless you find a raid mob or a named guy that's super tough and you just didn't know what was going on. I don't want death to be the norm. I mean, we're not making Dark Souls online as much as I would love to do that. Technically, Dark Souls is online, but excuse me. But I don't want the tag to be you will die in this game. I want people to go through, and I want them to genuinely fear the mob that they're fighting if that mob is powerful. And death is a huge part of that. It is a huge part of it.
What about a mechanic like instead of like limiting the amount of experience that you gain overall, just like limit the amount of experience you gain against a certain boss or a certain mob? That way, you wouldn't be tempted to keep going back and then repeatedly dying at it. You'd want to kill it that first time, and then kind of like do a stack of experience loss. So it's not as desirable if you've died to it a bunch, but then after a certain period of time it would get better. But that would still allow you to go off and do other things and be like, well, I can wait. I can go and fight other bosses or other mobs.
Well, you can, but first of all, you have to display that information somewhere. So it sounds like it could be confusing. At the max level, that doesn't seem like anyone would care about it. And the dying doesn't stop you from being able to go off and do other stuff. Losing your corpse, not having your items is what does it. So XP isn't even the issue there, right? It's getting your corpse back. That's the issue. If in our death mechanic, you'll be able to get your items back if you really, really want to, or you can see if someone can summon your corpse, or you can, if there's a cleric there in your group they'll res you. So definitely ways to get XP back, and get back to your corpse and get your items. It's just like EverQuest or FF.
Okay.
It's pretty straightforward. And like I said, I said in the chat, I put the stuff on the wiki that gives a quick rundown of the death mechanic, a bulleted list at the bottom that summarizes how things work. It really is very, very straightforward. Anyone who's played EverQuest or FF or any of those games, which I assume a lot of people have here that are on the site. I'm not sure. Are you guys? Dan, you said you started with WoW or no?
I actually started. This is going back a long ways. I started with Earth and Beyond.
Oh, dude, I love that game.
I miss it
love
so
Earth
much.
Yeah, me too. I was just thinking about that the other night. As a matter of fact.
Yeah, no, Earth and Beyond was my first MMO, and then I went to PlanetSide after it got closed down.
Okay.
For
Then,
me,
then City of Heroes and on.
I started with Ultima Online, and then I did not
Oh,
have
okay.
a PC capable during the EverQuest era. And then I want to say I went to, once I did have a better graphics card, I went over to Asheron's Call and tried that for a while.
Mhm.
AC is another fantastic game. Oh man, yeah.
We had a couple questions in chat. A lot of people have asked about what's going to happen to the corpse. Does the loot, does your items stay on the corpse? Do you
Yes.
have to go get your stuff off the corpse? And how
Yes.
long is that going to stick there? Is there going to be a decay time on it?
No decay timers on corpses. There will be a decay time on res. So if you die, you generate a corpse. You go back to your bind point naked. Hopefully you have some backup gear or something. Or you have a friend who's close by who can res, or someone who can summon corpses. But there is no notion of your corpse will permanently go away and you lose all your items. Never been a huge fan of mechanic. It seems completely unnecessary. So your corpse will be there, but there is a res timer. So if you die and you're not res within 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever the timer ends up being, you lose the chance of getting that percentage XP back. You'll never get full XP back. If I threw a number out there, a max level cleric or shaman might be able to res you for 90% or whatever we decide, 95, whatever, down to maybe 80 or something. Towards the end of the game, or if you just have some good friends or an alt, you'll be able to recoup that as long as you can get to the corpse. But yeah, all the mechanics of dragging corpses, summoning corpses, someone can cast summon corpse and they can get to your corpse, target it, get in the zone of your corpse, target it, or target you. They can summon the corpse to their feet at the cost of a reagent. If someone is down there like a scout, something rogue or something, you can give them permission to drag your corpse. They can drag your corpse to you. So there's definitely much more steeped in group mechanics. People working together. Hopefully, death can bring people together too. There are a lot of people that I met. Having my corpse in the middle of Seblis somewhere, and dude, I need my corpse. I saw you there. Could you maybe drag it? Oh yeah, and then the friendship built to there. You want to join my group? I was in here soloing at the front, and let's start a group. So yeah, death can certainly get people together. But yeah, that's how it works. All your items are on there. Once again, that's another just really straightforward thing. Absolutely no decay. I can't say it enough. No decay.
Does that include items that aren't equipped? Away was asking in chat.
Full bag.
We haven't talked about we haven't thought about whether we want to take bag away. My default answer would be probably but we'll have to see how inventory ends up panning out, whether that's hugely important. I mean, I can definitely see someone carrying an extra set of gear, but with the whole swapping gear stuff, depending on how that works out, your inventory may not even have extra loot in it because it would be a part of this dress thing and then whatever. So there's some other systems that still need to be worked out before we can make a final decision on that.
Now you
So
have
that
in
would be
here you have in here
Go ahead.
the loss of the XP or percentage of your XP, and then possibly a level if you're low enough. How is the gear? Do you plan the gear to be handled? Level based or stat based in order to equip it?
there's no plan to say required level for any gear.
Okay.
No plan. If we limited level, it'd probably be in the part of procs or whatever, stuff like that. We're being really, currently the idea is that items will be pretty open to everybody. There really isn't a plan right now to even have class restrictions on items.
Just the better your character is, the better the item ends up being in a way.
Kind of. We're looking at systems that have been used in Dark Souls, have been used in some Final Fantasy games, where basically your class or skill on your character has a rating based on the item. So if you have a high armor value because you're a tank, you tend to have a high armor skill or whatever. That armor skill is heavy armor has like an A rating with that armor skill, so it scales really high with that. So a caster can put that heavy armor on, but they're not going to get nearly the protection that they would if they knew how to actually wear the armor and fight with it. So of course I'm tangenting now, but so when it comes to items, we're being completely open with it. So at least that's the plan. Obviously things change, but so yeah, there's no worry about people leveling down, not being able to re-equip stuff, things like that. It would maybe just scale down or whatever. Yeah.
Back on the subject of corpses and EXP, Kindred brought up big concern that certain zones would be overpopulated with dead corpses if there is no decay time on it. If that does become a problem, would you guys consider relooking at the mechanic and saying, well, we need to put some kind of decay time on these? Here it is.
Putting in a decay time that permanently destroys your items so that there is no corpse clutter seems like a bad idea, and also a customer service nightmare. So the actual corpses.
How about a timer where they just disappear for everyone else, but not?
Yeah, ultimately we just do what EverQuest did, which was. Well, yeah, hide corpse, and you just wouldn't see anyone corpse except for your group or whatever. So, it really, that shouldn't be a concern. But I definitely don't want to put decay timers in because
I can
of
just
that.
picture mounds of corpses outside Freeport City gates or whatever.
Well, I mean, I could even
names and.
Well, I could even see like a decay timer that's a decay for everyone else to see it, so that they have enough time to help you out or something. Sure. But after a certain period of time, it's like, nope, they can't help you. You have to get your corpse now, but only you can see it. So it's out of sight.
See, that's brutal. That makes it even more brutal.
Well, 24 or 48 hours, something like that.
Rob hates people. We've learned this over time. Rob just hates people.
That's why I like Dark Souls.
Like that.
If you don't retrieve your corpse in 24 hours, it deletes your hard drive. And...
Oh no! I wasn't meaning it like that.
Screw you.
Like you have full ability to get your corpse and everything. It's just that after a certain period of time, it's not available for other people to help out, or at some point, if your corpse is sitting there for 48 hours, I could at that point see, okay, you got to go get it. Sogato had a good question in chat. If a player appeals to their god to get back their corpse, what will be some of the and I lost it there. What will be some of the penalties and requirements that the god puts on that player for the help? And I'd like to expand that to extraneous and hyper special mechanics involved in retrieval of the corpse, like a god or god king intervening and saying, "Oh, pluck body, here it is."
Well, I mean, we have a very specific thing for that. If you absolutely cannot get to your corpse, the last resort is to go ask your god for it. Gods are not. Gods are greedy. They want something in return. So, first off, the god will not return your corpse. He will return your items. And since he doesn't return your corpse, you get no XP back. But if the god, if you want him to do you a favor, he's going to ask for additional XP in order to do it. So that is an absolute last resort. That is hey, I just don't want to run back to my corpse, or obviously there certainly will be people who just don't have friends, but in the communities that I grew up in playing MMOs, sending people tells or just generally talking to people, you can always find someone who's willing to help. If it's late at night and there's nobody online, I can understand that. And you
Salim
just
will
wait,
log in
right?
to help you out.
What's that?
If there's nobody online, it's late at night, Salim will log in to help you.
Sure. But if it's a situation where your corpse will be there, I mean, you can. I guess I probably shouldn't say this, but I mean, you could log out. If you're logging out for the night or whatever, you can log out. Your corpse is still going to be there. People can, the rest timer will probably be an online count. Assuming you have backup gear, which people should definitely have that. If not, they'll learn that they should probably have some backup gear. Um, so yeah, your God will help you, but really, you're not supposed to go to him. You're supposed to go to other people. But he'll help you. Yeah, sure. Give me more. And oh wait, you asked me to get your course. Oh, I forgot about that thing. Here's your stuff though. So yeah, gods are sometimes really cruel. Um, how we modify that, I'm not sure. We'll have to see how that plays out. But you get XP back for res, and you'll get XP back if you loot your corpse, but you won't get you'll get a very low amount of that back.
Kindred brought up a kind of funny point. He could see a bunch of level 1 players dying multiple times over and over again and spelling out something on the ground with all their bodies. Would there be multiple corpses or just one corpse that consolidates?
EverQuest, people did that in EverQuest all the time. Remember when the towers were brought down? Some guy made a guy named Osama and let people kill him and stuff like that. So there are a bunch of Osama corpses in the newbie area.
Dark.
There will be multiple, probably multiple corpses, because you could die in 2 different locations. We could consolidate them in one. If you have a bunch in one location. But once again, we could just say, hey, if you got more than 5 corpses, we'll just show the 5 corpses, which is effectively consolidating as well. But yeah, we'll just have to see performance-wise what we want to do there. But ultimately, yeah, we'll get that. We'll get people in newbie areas doing that. And if you're a low level, if you don't have any items on you, if there's no need for you to be res or anything, we may just make the corpse disappear instantly. There's no need for you to have a corpse. There's nothing on you. If you're a new player, there's probably nothing of note. We may not even have the death penalty enforced until you get to a certain level, things like that. And totally fine with that type of stuff to avoid things like that. Because that's a new CS nightmare.
Speaking of people sometimes dying repeatedly or dying without a consequence, or sometimes in this situation dying and losing a lot of experience, how will the resurrection system work? Are you guys gonna have a res timer? I forget who asked that in chat. I'm sorry guys, I saw it in there though. How is the res timer gonna work both online and offline?
I was actually thinking about that this morning. I think the res timer is effectively going to be online time. So if you want to save that timer, oh man, my friend gets home in an hour. He has an awesome cleric. There's no clerics around or no clerics online, whatever. I'm gonna pop out, maybe play another character, whatever. Should be online time for that character. And log in. He logs in. He comes over, grabs the corpse, and there you go. Definitely should be. I don't want people being offline and like sitting there and like, oh my god, the offline timer is 10 hours and I got to go to work and stuff like that. It's not necessary to affect real life like that. Just if you're online for 4 hours or whatever, the rest timer should be pretty generous. Definitely don't want people to die and then start, oh my god, I got to get to my corpse in the next half an hour. So that it can be res. No, you know what? Maybe it's 4 or 5 hours. Whatever. It's fine. It's not a huge deal. It's just something that should be in the back of your mind.
Now, how I am actually curious. How will the res system work? If you die, let's say I die in game.
Mm-hmm.
I die. I just died. Crap. Things are not good.
Yeah.
Will I be able to release from my body and respawn somewhere and then go find my corpse, or
Yes.
will I have to have someone resurrect me?
No, so you can go find your corpse. Like I said, people can drag your corpse, whatever. You can find your corpse. You can loot it yourself. When you die, you enter a death state, and you're basically just kind of looking at your body. That death state lasts a certain amount of time. Maybe an hour or whatever. Or you can release. If you release, you go back to your blind point. and from there you can ask people, go about getting your corpse, whether it be running back or getting people to summon it or whatever.
How will corpse transportation? I can't believe I'm saying that. How will corpse transportation work for Pantheon? Will someone literally be able to go over there, pick the corpse up over their shoulder, and haul it back, or is it going to be just a magical thing?
People can drag corpses, which means they have to physically go to the corpse, target it, and drag it. How that mechanic works. Maybe you click on it and then you just click. You toggle on drag corpse or whatever, link it to you or whatever. However, we end up having the in-game interaction work, and they can drag it within the zone. Corpses won't cross zone lines. They'll if you want your corpse, you have to go back to that zone if you want to loot it. Or if someone reses you, the res would teleport you to your corpse from anywhere you are in the world. It's just someone has to get to your corpse to res it. Yeah, that's about it. And like I said, we have a res timer. One of the big reasons for res timer is, like I just said, you can teleport to your corpse, right? People can definitely use corpses for teleportation, for travel. They'll drop corpses down by Trakanon to check his spawn or things like that, and they'll just have a cleric log there or whatever that they don't care about, that just has res, just to res a corpse so they can check it. Then they'll just die again. They don't really care about dying and pop back out. So that's one of the big reasons for res timers.
Would they be openly draggable, or would a player have to give them permission to drag their body?
You have to give consent.
Okay.
You have to give someone consent.
In early days of EQ, I think I remember that you didn't have to give consent, but that didn't.
Oh yeah, I think that was yeah.
Where did I go?
Yeah.
Making
that could still happen. you could give consent to somebody, and they're just like, screw you.
Yeah,
we're just gonna go take everyone's bodies and hide them in the mountains.
A little stash.
A stash of corpses.
K-Tame's suggesting that mobs can do it too, like goblins take.
Oh my god!
Take your body
yes.
off to prepare for cooking, and that might be too cruel. Might be a bit harsh.
There was another question. Lyrina, where is your question? I just saw it. What about summoning corpse? Will that work worldwide or zone wide? I think you just answered that. Corpses are going to be specific to zones.
Yep.
Okay.
Correct. The only way that it hops zones when you get res to your corpse, which would teleport you from one zone to another.
Gotcha. Question from Ex Mortis: will res remove all buffs? Death can be abused to get buffs like Vanguard.
Yes. Yep.
That's a good point.
We are effectively processing. We'd basically be reloading your character as if you just died at that spot. So everything will go on. You'll get res effects. You'll get all that stuff.
Could you have a Weekend at Bernie's 2 thing where a witch doctor can make the corpse animate?
Well,
that is so random.
Yeah, well, I just started
we do have
picturing
a voodoo character, so
the body just dancing around as it's following a witch doctor.
That could be a cool corpse drag for the voodoo shaman. Oh man, what we call them? Since they work with voodoo dolls and stuff like that, maybe that's what their drag is. They have a corpse drag spell and they cast it, and the body just animates and walks around. That'd be pretty cool.
Or maybe like a little marionette cross hops up above them, and you have little strings down.
Yeah, that'd be pretty awesome. They just got an army of players' corpses behind him doing the cha-cha or whatever, and doing a limbo.
Doing the cha-cha.
I'm sorry.
No comment.
Cha-cha there in France or what? Sorry.
In France. Yeah.
Or sorry, in Canada. God, I'm sorry. Man.
Represent.
How low can you go?
Wow. Alejandro had a question. How much of a priority will maintaining the death penalty be as the game is expanded? They're saying they found the death penalty in EQ1 became less and less severe with expansions that focused on endgame rating.
It's another thing that we've all kind of been repeating is that we know the game we're making. This is the identity of the game that we're making, and we don't want to go away from that identity. We understand that our game is reaching out to a few people in the grand scheme of things, and we want to make sure that the experience for those few people is the best that it can be. and that means being consistent. I know that games grow, and there's all kinds of mudflation when it comes to items and abilities and stuff like that. When it comes to core things like death, when I'm saying that our philosophy when it comes to content and you fearing your environment, everything is built around kind of these core philosophies. Death is a huge part of it, and I would not like to see that change. I can't obviously I can't jump to the future and see what happens, but there someone has to come to me with a very very good reason why I would change it, and then they'd have to give me a way that we're going to bring back what they're removing in some other way gameplay wise, because once you remove death, like all the examples I gave, what do you have? It just doesn't matter. People will just be running around willy nilly. They won't respect the environment. They won't respect what people have been doing when it comes to development side of the game, for this game specifically. So we've been very hardcore about that. We're not going to try to. We want to avoid trying to reach out to be mass market or grab a bunch of an audience that isn't a part of our game, that we're not targeting. So and that's generally when decisions like that come about. We want to make this more mainstream. We have to fix death because this game does it and a lot of people play it. Well, yeah, that's true, but that's not the game that you're working on. You're working on this game here, and this is what this game's about. And that's the philosophy that we're taking. That's the thought process behind the game.
You guys aren't working on another company's title. You guys are working on Pantheon. You're working on your title.
Yes.
And this comes up frequently, but really, there's no reason at all for us to do that kind of thing where we're catering to what modern mechanics exist now. That there's already games like that. It just doesn't make any sense for us to do that.
Yeah, and I mean, people who were fans of Vanguard, that's kind of what happened with Vanguard. I mean, it lost its identity. WoW came out, EQ2 came out, even City of Heroes. So when those games came out, I remember City of Heroes came out, and the company paid for copies for most of the people working there at the time because everyone's got to play this game. We got to see what we can take from it. WoW was huge, and obviously when you see the dollar signs there, people, oh man, we're in the middle of making a game. Let's see what we can change. Combat in Vanguard took a drastic change. The outlook on death changed drastically, and it was just because we were at this point where we thought we could get more people, and I think that that's where we really screwed up when it came to Vanguard, and I don't want to repeat that type of behavior if we can avoid it.
One thing I did want to bring up here as we are getting into the closing minutes, the last 5 minutes of tonight's broadcast, encumbrance issues. I forget who exactly brought it up in chat. Someone brought it up in chat there. Is there going to be an encumbrance issue of characters with low strength or a certain level of strength not being able to haul corpses effectively? Or is it going to be across the board? Okay, you have a corpse, go.
It's not. I mean, right now I don't see a reason to do that. Whether we're even going to have encumbrance we still have to work out. I don't. Once again, it's another system where potentially it's just put in to make weight reduction bags valuable. It didn't, and ultimately it just made people who played Wizards in the long run angry because they didn't have high strength or whatever. So they were being punished for it. I mean, which is kind of, it works out, right? It makes sense, but so we have to look at a weight system and decide whether we really want to do that and try to make it worthwhile. But that's probably another show discussion.
Suspension of disbelief. There's got to be some.
Yes, but corpses will more than likely not count towards your weight. I can totally see like some guys like, oh well, I could drag your corpse, but it's just too heavy. What am I going to do? And that guy just says, whatever. I can't go anywhere. There's no bank here. What am I going to do? I don't think that'd be a good idea.
Or a guy who's wearing full bronze armor, so he needs an entire group to pull his corpse.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. Everyone, all right.
Nice.
You guys take his left leg. We'll take his right leg. That raid, take his arms.
Oh man.
That'd be. It's a bad game mechanic, but it'd be hilarious to see.
Yes.
Like everyone has to haul the tank for the raid onto a cart, onto a trolley, just so someone can push his body back to town.
I could see that for like ogre type characters. I could definitely see that for like larger type characters.
Yeah.
It'd be hilarious. It'd be absolutely hilarious. Any closing thoughts, Ben or Salim, that you guys had for this afternoon, this evening?
Just keep looking out on the site. Check out the wiki. I threw combat up there, threw death up there. Pretty much all the questions that have been asked here are a part of the death wiki. They're all answered there. So yeah, keep an eye on that. I'm trying to add more stuff to it.
And let us know what you guys want to talk about next week too. I usually go through the forums and through the think tank and everything on Thursdays and sort of try to decide on what the hot topic of that week is. So the more you're involved, just let us know. Just let us know what you want to talk about, and we'll bring it up in the next show.
Is there a specific way you'd like suggestions to be thrown at you?
No, I mean, I watch the entire site, so I mean, whatever you're most comfortable doing it in, whether it be the think tank or on the forums, or I would use one of those two as opposed to posting it on Facebook or something like that. But yeah,
But
No,
matter, as long as
Ali,
they're posting on
Ali, I just have to say this. No to Awi's question.
Uh-oh.
No, I'm not sharing Death XP hits across the group.
Ugh.
Negative.
It needs to stay personal to your own specific character.
Yeah. Oh man, I have a very personal pet peeve with that particular mechanic.
Uh-oh. Whoa. We have a minute or two if you want to share.
No,
No?
it's just the potential for people to kind of screw you over, and it never really made sense to me because you're already, so if you die and you're our DPS, if we keep pulling mobs, we're not killing them as fast. So my XP is taking a hit anyway.
Mhm.
If you die in your main tank, my XP is stopping until we get you back here. So throw on top of that, you died, whether you were doing something dumb or thing was just too powerful, and I took an XP hit on top of the fact that now I'm not getting XP because I'm waiting for you to come back and we need to replace you in the group.
Sure.
It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. If someone in a group oriented game like this, someone in your group dies, your XP is suffering in general. In many cases. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the group penalty.
Complicated.
Yeah. And then people just start yelling at each other, and they only want to group with. They don't want to group with strangers. They only want to group people that they trust.
Mm-hmm.
And, you shouldn't be afraid to group with someone and see if they're any good.
You want to enforce a risk reward system, not an antisocial system.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. Yep.
There we go. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Ben, Salim, appreciate it always. Apologies for the inconveniences there. Make sure you guys join our group over on the Pantheon ROTF website. We will be posting that in chat. Appreciate it, guys. Always make sure you are around in the actual chat room at pantheonrotf.com to be a part of the conversation. We got a lot of viewers and users in on the conversation, and that's exactly what the point of this is. Also, make sure you guys check out KTAM, KTAMradio.com. In about 15 minutes after the end of this broadcast, they're going to be going on with their own post-game, talking about what they heard and more community thoughts, generating ideas. Feel free to post those ideas, too, on the Pantheon ROTF forums. Support the project, guys. Thank you for being here. Ben, Salim again. For Rob, I have been Dan.
For Dan, I have been Rob.
That is the Pantheon ROTF. I've said that way too many times. Wow. The weekly Pantheon Roundtable here on twitch.tv/The Rob and Dan Show. Make sure you follow us here on twitch.tv. Good night now.